so much. Thanks enormously. That video tribute, I have to say, I want a copy of that, and I want to take it home to New York and draw the drapes and put it on an endless loop for about 6 days. I am especially grateful that I'm being honored this evening at a conference dedicated to writers, and it is to them that I would like to address a few remarks. My fellow playwrights, you've no doubt weathered a lot of conjecture and theory about your art this past week. I'd like to send you home from Nebraska with some practical advice, the kind you can stick on Post-its, or if you're ambitious, sew on a sampler. 10 tips for writing the perfect play. 1. Dismiss that woefully misguided maxim, write what you know. Instead, and I emphatically believe this, write what you don't know. Write about what confuses, enrages, haunts, and confounds you. The writer who has the answers is penning propaganda. The writer on a quest for them is the one I'd rather experience. If you're a single working mom with kids in daycare, don't write about it. Instead, write about the Dickensian workhouses for children in 19th century London. If you're in the National Guard, then write about Incan warriors. If you're a straight man at home, but a gay man on business trips, write about a double agent in World War II, his allegiance torn between warring countries. You'll be surprised at how much you already know. 2, write for an audience that is smarter than you are. If your script includes a brain transplant, assume it will be seen by Harvard neurosurgeons. If you're scribing a historical romance set against the backdrop of the Civil War, then presume that Doris Kearns Goodwin and Ken Burns are sitting in the 3rd row. The moment your audience sniffs condescension, you've lost them forever. 3, love the act of writing more than being a writer. The notion of living the life of the aesthete in a swank little garret, paying visits to Charlie Rose to discuss your latest masterwork, is as seductive as it is fatal. I know a hip junior editor at a supermarket tabloid who spends more time pining for legitimate publication than she does putting her fingers to the keys. Spend more energy on your second draft than on your query letters. If you want to write, make peace with the idea that a monthly mortgage, a car loan, private school tuition for junior, credit card bills, hell, even regular eating habits are all impediments to your craft. Fantasize about your chosen subject more than you fantasize about success. The personal satisfaction of a phrase well turned, this is the only guaranteed reward that writing can offer. And if other rewards do follow, foreign rights, movie deals, or dare I say it, even Pulitzer Prizes, glorious as they are, they pale in comparison to that utterly thrilling, utterly private moment when a character you've created takes flight and starts speaking to you, and you're suddenly a mere vessel furiously transcribing her words. It never gets better than that. If you expect a different kind of gratification, then perhaps it isn't the profession for you. 4, never, ever read your reviews. At first you'll be tempted, but like the baby who naively reaches for the boiling pot on the stove, once you get burned, you won't be so easily duped again. This does not mean, of course, that you should insulate yourself from criticism. We require it in order to grow. But soliciting feedback on a new play is tantamount to getting advice about an intended spouse or the purchase of a new home. You should only seek it from someone who has your best interests at heart. Choose trustworthy mentors, colleagues, and friends. Their critique can be tough, sure, even at times discouraging. Sometimes the people who truly love us spare us the least. But because their candor springs from a genuine desire to see us succeed, it's usually a healthy exchange. A critic's first obligation is to his readership, not to you. He's far more interested in their fidelity than he is in your own aesthetic betterment. That play or musical or movie you slaved over for the better part of 3 years, embedding your heart in its pages, for the critic it's merely the raw clay for his own penetrating insights and wickedly crafted barbs. It's a chance to prove his expertise, impress his editor, or amuse his own jaded audience. If he adores your work, he'll claim that he discovered you. If he despises it, the insults will scorch themselves onto your brain, haunting you whenever you sit down to write. Remember, he is paid to keep abreast of your work. You are not paid to keep abreast of his. The playwright who turns to the critic for affirmation is trapped in a deeply dysfunctional relationship, like the tortured lover who demands affection from a sociopath. 5, never write to a perceived marketplace. Second-guessing the taste of the public is as inscrutable as the hula hoop, the pet rock, and everybody loves Raymond. Leave that to agents, publishers, and marketers. Write in a way which trumps fashion, not caters to it. When you're told your work isn't sufficiently commercial, take heart in the following fact. Yes, it's true that the Great American Trailer Park Musical was an off-Broadway hit in 2005, but Bertolt Brecht has been performing to sold-out houses for over 100 years. 6, never be afraid to humiliate yourself. Arthur Miller said, "We haven't truly done our work if our writing fails to cut so deeply, so close to the bone, that we're vaguely embarrassed by it." When you write, don't be limited by your sense of shame. 7, every time you start a play or a screenplay, assume it'll never be produced. The opportunity to revel in your subject, to drink it in, to obsess over it should be enough. And if your masterpiece never makes it to Broadway, by its completion, you'll still be the world's expert on the indigenous Eskimos of Greenland. For 2, 6, or 12 glorious years, you'll have walked in their snowshoes, and with or without a production, you'll be better for it. If your chosen topic isn't worth passionate study on its own merits, chances are it isn't worth a play either. Write to learn, not to teach. 8, study the sister arts. Nothing teaches you more about economy than Chinese brush painting, or more about rhythm than dance. 9, be wary of speakers like me. Take panelists and seminars with a grain of salt. Don't follow the instructions of how-to books. Don't attempt to imitate authors who've succeeded before you. Instead, when you sit down in front of your computer, the phone muted, coffee cup by your side, do something truly courageous and open a vein. Write because you have to in order to survive until tomorrow. May your work have all the urgency, all the indispensability, and all the reckless brio of a well-penned suicide note. 10, if you're fortunate enough to carve out a career in the theater, if your plays lurch from church basements to resident theaters and all the way to Broadway, if venerable panels of your wizened elders decide to favor you with prizes, hardware to adorn your mantel or your windowsills, if you have learned to call yourself a writer in public without apology, and if one day you should receive a very gracious phone call from a Dr. McDowell asking you to be the honored playwright at the Great Plains Theater Conference, then say yes without delay. You will hobnob with some of the most compelling figures in the American theater, like Marshall Mason, Patricia Neal, Tammy Grimes, Joel Vigg, Daniel Irvine, and Javon Johnson. You will have the privilege of hearing acute academic minds assess your work with insight that outstrips your own. Theater artists of remarkable breadth and facility will treat you to first-rate productions of your work. You will be invigorated by ardent young writers jostling for a place in the canon, which many of them will no doubt achieve. You may even be the recipient of a video tribute that rivals Industrial Light and Magic in its production values and features embarrassing anecdotes from people you love. But you will be astonished, you will be humbled, you will be moved. In short, you'll fall in love with your own craft all over again. And what a precious gift. So I thank you.